Coming to you from the TheEoNProject studios, perched high atop the banks of the majestic Blackstone River. Greetings from the jewel of the Blackstone Valley. You're listening to Experts of Nothing with Mike and Jay.
You feeling okay today, buddy?
You know,
that was a depressed opening. You're usually a lot more vibrant than that.
Well,
that was depressed.
Would you like me to redo it?
No, I just think it was depressed.
Well, you know, that actually sets the tone for me today.
Okay.
I'm a little my voice sounds a little rough and harsh.
Yeah.
And I sound like I'm a little under the weather. Mm-hmm. That's because I am.
Why?
Well, you know, I was out minding my own business last night.
Out and about on the town.
Yep, certainly was. And some young, interesting individuals, friends of mine,
men.
forced upon me various...
this is a family show before you continue.
Various adult beverages.
Oh.
And they took me all around town.
Oh.
At various locales. Mm-hmm. And seeing and experiencing different things.
So you had fun.
And I did have fun. If you hear something, it's just me adjusting the microphone.
You had a little bit too much fun, and that it's reflective in your intro today.
It is. And, you know, I had to get up early to get the kids ready for school and all.
Yeah.
And I'm paying the price now, my friend.
Well, that sucks. But anyway, last week we had a great show. We talked about Nine Men's Misery, which is a local historical site here in the Blackstone Valley area.
That's right. That was our last recorded show, and then we did the...
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. And then we had a retro show where we replayed an interview we did with Mr. Scott Walter, the geophysical superstar.
Yeah.
And rock star, good-looking dude, but if I may say so.
Well, for an older man, you know, he probably does okay with the ladies.
Nice guy.
Although I think he's married.
He was good enough to call into the show. We interviewed him, and good guy.
Did you actually say he's a rock star?
No, but that.
But he is a rock star.
Meaning
yes,
geology.
Pun intended.
Rock star.
Hey, what's up with the? So I have a bone to pick.
Oh, well, before you get that, let me tease the show today.
Tease it good.
So today is actually an interesting show. We haven't done this before. We're starting a 3-episode arc about the same topic, which the reason we're doing it is because this topic has a lot of different facets to it. It's got a true crime aspect. We have a lot of fans who are true crime aficionados. So it has that.
Yep.
It has a paranormal aspect to it, a very, very famous case. And it also has it's got a lot of different things to it. So it's going to require multiple shows to do.
Exactly.
So without getting into too much of it, we're going to be discussing the Amityville horror case, which is very interesting. Like I said, a lot of different different aspects to it. Today's going to be we're going to focus on one part of it, and then we're going to come back for 2 more episodes later.
That's right. Hey, so the have you noticed the prevalence lately of self-checkouts, right?
Yeah.
At various stores and things.
Sure.
You gather your own groceries, you go up, you check out yourself, you bag it yourself,
Yep.
you scan your card, you leave.
I'm always nervous.
So it
never goes off without a hitch, though.
Here's my hang-up with that, right? So you're doing all the work.
Yeah.
You're basically acting as an employee.
There's usually somebody around
and
there that handles like.
Don't you think you should get like a discount or something? You should get some sort of money off, because why do it then? You could just go to the lady that's the employee there.
You can get money off. You just don't scan. You just scan every other item.
Oh, so you steal?
No, it's just scanning every other item.
Oh, okay.
Then you could say it was an error. Like cashiers,
it was a mistake?
Cashiers make mistakes all the time, don't they?
Oh, you know what you could do?
You just say, I didn't know it didn't scan. I heard a beep.
No, you scan.
I don't even know what happened.
You scan. You pretend to scan it.
Yes.
You just slide it over the machine.
That's what I'm saying.
And put it in the bag.
Yes.
Oh.
Cashiers do it all the time.
Makes sense now.
Now you can do it.
I got it.
So anyway,
there is an advantage.
So that was your bone to pick with the self checkout.
Yeah,
you feel like you work there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I need to tell you before we get into the Amityville horror, at least the first part of it, I had an interesting experience. And if you have small children listening to the program, I know that some people do listen to the show with their kids. I'm not going to get into anything that's too bad, but please maybe earmuffs for the next.
So this is a disclaimer.
Next portion. This disclaimer is a little bit of adult subject.
Oh.
So I was actually sexually assaulted by a chair.
Do you need to call the authorities? Do you need some sort of psychological treatment?
I may, and let me explain what happened.
All right.
So anyway, I was at one of my lovely children had a birthday recently, and we had the party at one of those trampoline parks. You know,
gotta be careful there. A lot of injuries take place.
Well, you go to the trampoline park. It's great for adults because you don't really have to do anything.
Yeah.
You just kind of sit there and the kids bounce around.
Hope your kids don't compound fracture of something.
Yeah, no, you have to sign all these waivers. But anyway, so I was in the waiting area with my lovely wife, And we noticed that they had those, those massage chairs?
Yeah.
Like the really, really high-end ones?
Like a shiatsu chair,
Yes.
It gives you the whack machine
Yeah,
thing.
you usually see them at the mall or whatever
Yep.
that. No, so this one, it was $2 for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I have $2. I'm going to try.
Mm.
I've never tried one of these machines before. So I sat down, and it's a very comfortable. It's a pleather. It's not real leather.
No, it has to be pleather.
It's well, of course,
Easy to wipe down,
Right. Well, I'm going to get to that.
Oh.
So anyway, so I get into the chair. I sit down. It's got you sink into the chair a little bit, and it has these things that come around your legs.
Yep.
It's got the whole schmear. So I was sitting there, and I put the money in, and it starts giving you a pretty good massage. All of a sudden, unbeknownst to me, the leg portions of the thing inflate.
Yeah, and they start squeezing the hell out of you.
And they squeeze you. So now you're trapped effectively.
You get stuck. You
in
can't
the
get
chair.
out of there.
You can't get out. Especially when you're a very muscular person like myself. I'm a very, very muscular.
Yeah, you're very big.
Yes. So anyway, I'm stuck in the chair, but this stupid thing's got my legs.
Yep.
All of a sudden, without my knowledge or consent, these things came up from the butt area.
Oh, they started
and
vibrating
started
your buttocks.
kneading the butt area.
Yeah.
And I was not unexpected. I didn't think it was coming, and I thought for a second, I had a moment of panic that the roller would continue to move vertically and not stop.
Oh, so it was going to slide into your crack?
It was going to violate me with its roller.
It was going to check your prostate?
And so I got really nervous, also somewhat excited at the same time.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, it was over.
So
and I was left unfulfilled.
You didn't feel any sense of pleasure
no
from it?
closure.
So let me ask you this. How about this for a panic attack?
Yeah.
You're in the machine. Mm-hmm. It inflates on your legs. Mm-hmm. You get the legs all trapped in there.
Yep.
All of a sudden, the power goes out, and a fire happens, or some sort of emergency.
I'm sure that they have some sort of safety feature, but what I thought was going to happen, I thought these straps were going to come up from my hands, and then like a red ball would come and stuff in my mouth.
Wrap around you.
And then all of a sudden, I'm stuck in the chair, getting violated. And
then you'd ask them, hey, where'd you get this chair?
Some people pay extra for that. And actually, now that I've mentioned it on the air, people are probably going to be lining up to try this chair.
Yeah, it's a nice chair. I had a massage recently, a head massage.
Yeah?
Actually, I get it every couple weeks. And it's, we talked about hair cutteries before.
Yeah, we did.
So that place I go to, I try to avoid the small talk. But anyway.
That's hard to believe.
After the haircut, they give you they bring you in the darkened back room.
Oh.
And they put you in a vibrating chair and put your head in the sink.
In the sink?
Yeah, they give you
sounds like a torture.
They give you a scalp massage.
Okay.
And a hot towel on you.
That sounds like fun.
But then they bring you back and put you back in the chair, and they bring in this wand.
Oh.
It's a wand with a head on it.
A wand?
Yeah.
A magic wand?
A massaging power wand.
Oh, it's a massage wand.
It's a power wand.
And what do they do with it?
They rub it all over you, like your head.
Really? And this is like a
shoulders.
legitimate massage place?
Yeah. No, it's a hair
it's a
cuttery.
hair cuttery.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's no violations
okay.
with the wand.
Do you ask for like special extra time with the wand? Or
No, but every once in a while they have a customer appreciation month, and you get double the massage
really?
For the same price.
Do they have like magazines that you can peruse while this is going on?
No, you close your eyes, you lean back, you relax.
Pretend you spend a lot of time in these places. We've talked about this. You have massages and hair cutting that you seem to be a very effete man.
Well, here's the problem. I'm on edge constantly, so I'm just looking for new and various ways to relax myself.
We're going to leave that there.
Yeah.
As it is. Anyway, so welcome to the TheEoNProject, where we discuss all manner of things that we have no knowledge about until right before the show, like today.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, we're going to be discussing the Amityville horror case, and as I said before, so we do have actually a fairly extensive set of knowledge, like an Encyclopedia Britannica, about this case, and the reason is we're going to get to it in a future show because we have visited this topic before and spoken with experts who had a unique perspective on the case, mostly because they were there. Not there at the time, but there there at the time.
Right.
Basically.
That's true.
Anyway, so when I mention the word Amityville, everybody immediately thinks of, what do they think of? They think of a haunted house, right?
Correct.
They think of demonic possession and scary movies and stuff. But many, if not most people, don't know that the house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, was actually a house of horrors long before the Lutz family moved in December of 1975. This story, as I said before, has many facets, including, get ready for this laundry list of topics that this story encompasses. Domestic abuse, which is not funny.
Nope.
Drugs, theft, the mafia, murder, police corruption, the paranormal, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff going on there. So much so that we can't do the topic justice in one episode, as I said before. So as good as that show may be and as awesome. Before I get into the topic, I got some feedback from the show. They said this was a smart show.
Smart?
You got to be wicked smart to listen to this
Is that how they
show.
said it?
Yeah.
It's a Bostonian?
It was a person from the Bostonian area
Oh.
who said, "Dude, you got a wicked smart show there."
Actually, we've I always check the listeners and the clicks from around the world.
Yeah?
We got some new listens in Australia.
What?
And the Netherlands.
The Netherlands?
Yes.
I can't stand the Dutch. I'm just kidding.
Why? What's
love
wrong with
you,
the Dutch?
No, it was from a movie.
Oh.
It was an Austin Powers reference.
So when I look at the clickers and it tells me how many people from that country have clicked. Mm-hmm. So we got one from each of those countries.
One lonely sheep herder.
One. So
in Australia.
It's a good gauge on whether or not they like the show, because if I go back several days later and there's more clicks,
that's correct.
and they came back.
Word of mouth has spread in the Dutch language, which I can't repeat. That's the Swedish chef.
Oh.
Anyway, welcome, Netherlands and Australia. So, as we said, we decided to break the show up into 3 shows, and today we're going to be discussing the first part of the show, which is actually the true crime aspect of the murders of the case, which would be the murders which took place in this house on 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville.
And a quick disclaimer, if I may. We don't. Of course, we make light of certain things on the program,
Sure.
but obviously it's a serious case in the fact that there was some deaths involved and some children that were killed.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about that. We're not making light of it. We're just going about our normal.
This is how we are.
tone.
Like it or not, we can't help it. So sometimes, we don't think the topic is funny, but we are funny people. So we find it hard to turn it off sometimes.
Cool.
Anyway, so here's the facts of the case of the true crime case in brief. Sometime during the night of November 12th into the 13th, 1974, 6 members of the DeFeo family were murdered in their home. Ronald DeFeo, 43, Louise, 42, Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John, 9, were all shot and killed. All of the victims were found in their beds, face down, as if they had been killed in their sleep.
And this is at 112 Ocean Avenue.
I said that.
Oh, you did? Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
I said it twice.
Oh.
The weapon used was a 35 caliber Marlin rifle. Taken into custody and later charged with the murders was Ronald DeFeo Jr., who went by the name Butch. Mm-hmm. For some reason, everybody went by the name Butch back in the day.
Yep, Butch.
Lots of Butches.
Butch
running
DeFeo.
around. Butch DeFeo. So those are the basic facts. And if you were to just hear that, it would be a terrible tragedy, and you would hear it in the news, and you go, "Oh my gosh, an entire family was murdered by one of the members of the family." But there's so much more to this story than that we need to discuss. And before you can even start to try to figure out what happened, we want to figure out why something like this could have happened. That's the most important thing to me, is why. So, the house was called High Hopes, which, if your house has a name,
Right.
that means it's a pretty nice house.
It isn't, and for that time period, I think it was it was less than $100,000, but back then it was a lot of money.
$80,000.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that.
Sure.
We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, it was a very nice house. It was right on the water. They had a little boathouse.
Yep.
Right on a forget the body of water. It's a canal.
Access to the channel. It was like a channel.
Yeah, it was a canal. So it was called High Hopes, which was probably a lofty title given the shenanigans that took place behind this. Behind the walls of this Dutch colonial. Ooh. And if you haven't seen this house, it's actually a pretty neat looking house. Like I said, it's a Dutch colonial. It's 3 stories. It's got these very distinctive windows, which actually, if you go by the house today, those windows do not appear. They've been removed.
Yeah.
And that's because of stuff that we're going to get to, obviously. But the present owners of the home obviously don't want anybody to know that it's the Amityville house. So before we get into the tragic events that took place in November 1974, we need to discuss a little bit about the family dynamic of the DeFeos.
Yep.
You ready to do that?
So, yep, I am.
Oh. So, Ron DeFeo Sr., who we're going to call him Big Ronnie.
Big Ronnie.
Because you have a Big Ronnie and a Little Ronnie.
Correct.
Right?
Butch was the Little Ronnie.
Butch was Little Ronnie. So we're going to call him Butch. We're going to call the other one Big Ronnie, just for the sake of clarification. Big Ronnie was an alcoholic, a thief, and a woman beater.
Yeah.
He probably wore those old-timey wife-beater shirts, with the yellow stains.
He did. He had the stains on it.
The stains with the suspicious stains.
And
that
he
you don't know where it came from.
He used to eat the old TV dinners with the little tray in front of the TV.
He probably had those brown pants. The brown pants that you always wore with the wife beater?
Oh, yeah.
And he probably smelled a little bit like beef barley soup. If I had to say that he smelled like something, he probably looked like he probably smelled like beef barley soup.
Like a fresh beef barley, or
maybe
like a week old?
Maybe like a beef barley that had been lying about for a while. So anyway, by all accounts, he used to beat his wife thoroughly and regularly, which is not nice. He probably beat. Well, we know he beat the kids, and
that was Louise, was the wife, right?
Yes, the wife was Louise. He probably beat the dog too. They had a shaggy dog, like those the dogs that you can't see the eyes because the shaggy is along the way.
I forget what they call those.
Anyway, shaggy dog. That's what you call them. So anyway. So he beat everybody, including the dog. He probably beat some small woodland creatures that used to habit into the yard there.
Yeah, he wasn't very nice. He was a heavy-handed individual, to say the least.
Yeah. So he was basically a deadbeat who married into money. He married way up. He married Louise, who was actually connected to, through her father, to the mafia and money, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But he was a deadbeat, married into money. As I said, his wife's father, his father-in-law, was a successful mafia-linked businessman. Who got Big Ronnie, right?
Yep.
Got Big Ronnie a sweet gig, running a car dealership in the area, even though he was clearly a mess.
So he was selling used cars.
Yeah.
Perfect job for him.
Yeah, he had the interesting dichotomy of being both a habitual abuser and an alcoholic while also being a devout religious man.
Of course.
Which it's an interesting part of the equation here is the supposed religious nature of this man. And this is stuff that I actually have done tons of reading about the Amityville case, and I only stumbled upon this recently. Big Ronnie was he probably had an undiagnosed mental illness.
Yeah, is
what we would have to say. He thought he had supernatural powers. Did you know that?
I didn't. I never heard that. And I've read a lot about this.
As I said, it's very interesting stuff. He thought he had supernatural powers. Mm-hmm. He thought he could predict the future.
Like, what could he do? Like, what were his powers?
Well,
like X-ray vision?
He thought he could predict the future, and he actually used to call people and tell them that something bad was going to happen to them. And if this guy called you and said something bad, you'd probably think he was going to do it.
Yeah, probably.
Because he's that type of guy.
Take it as like a threat.
But he meant something bad is going to happen to you. He called a family friend and said that a tsunami was coming and was going to wipe out everybody. So anyway, he claimed that he had supernatural powers and that the powers came to him from divine sources.
Oh.
So he thought he could
like given to him by God.
That's correct. He thought he could utilize these forces to influence events and things of that sort. And he actually had a statue of Saint Joseph on the front lawn, which a lot of and this was an Italian family. A lot of Italian families revere, especially Catholic families revere Saint Joseph as their patron saint.
And lasagna.
Yeah.
Yep.
And meatballs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm part Italian, so I can say that.
Yep. Me too.
Anyway, so he had the shrine to St. Joseph out in his yard. So when he would beat the kids or his wife or do other dastardly things, he would go out there and pray to the statue to help him.
Wow.
Which made him a favorite of the neighbors. Imagine that.
So the neighbor, he was the neighborhood kook for sure.
Yeah. So basically they knew that somebody was getting beat in the house because then they would hear noises and then they would see
They'd
Big
see him
Ronnie
out there praying, like asking for forgiveness, basically.
That's exactly right. So an interesting side note. He supposedly realized that he had these powers after he had started giving generously to a church.
Mm-hmm.
And the priest who was happily receiving the donations magically revealed to him that he was blessed by God and angels could speak to him and everything. So the more money he gave to this church, the more powers he was able to get.
Well, that's been traditionally, though, that's been the MO of the church and continues to this day.
Unfortunately, that's why a lot of people don't like organized religion. This was the church he was giving money to was not actually in Amityville. It was in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know quite what the connection was there, but he happened upon this church and started making donations. He supposedly developed magical powers to the point where they were on a family vacation up in Canada, and they were going down a hill, and Big Ronnie said, "You know what? Angels are with us right now.
Yeah.
The angels are going to drive the car." So he took his hands off the wheel, and the car careened down an embankment.
Oh.
Luckily, no one was killed, and the actual priest who was receiving all the donations was in the car at the time. So I wonder if he had changed his thoughts.
I don't know, but that reminds me of a quick story about a car careening down the roadway.
Okay.
So when we were kids, I don't know if you remember this or not, one of our friends, I'll just say his name was Mr. Martin.
Oh.
He had a little, I think it was like a little Chevette.
Okay.
You know those little cars that he used to have? He used to drive that. And we're going down a hill, same thing, going down a hill. And the road was banking down to the right, and he decided just to take his hands off the wheel randomly and turn the car off.
What?
I don't know why.
Would he do
and
that?
Then the steering wheel locked up.
I'm sure.
And we almost lost control and died.
But luckily you didn't die.
He did it for no reason. He wasn't even drunk.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never found out why he did that?
Nope. We all screamed like
Did you ever
little
get in the
girls.
car with him again?
I did.
I bet you did. So anyway, So Big Ronnie, aside from being delusional and a wife beater and an alcoholic and all that, he was also a thief. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
And actually, all of this comes into play with when we get to the actual murders, unfortunately. So it's important to know the backstories of all this stuff. So he was a thief. He started skimming money from the mafia by way of the car dealership that he ran for his father-in-law. So normally, stealing money from the mafia is pretty dangerous,
right?
Wouldn't you think?
I would say.
That's not something that you would probably normally want to
Wake
do.
up with a horse head next to you or something.
Yeah, that was good. That's Godfather 2, right?
1 or 2.
2, I think.
I don't remember.
Anyway, so normally it's dangerous enough to try to steal from the mafia, but it even got more hairy because the father-in-law actually, after a period of time, the car dealership was not being successful. It was losing money. So the connected guy decided he's going to shut down the car business.
Yeah.
In late 1974. So what this means to Big Ronnie is that not only is his livelihood in jeopardy because he's not going to have any money coming in because that's his only job. You know, he's running the car dealership. It also means that the mob is probably going to find out that he was skimming.
Right.
Because, you know, when they start closing the books down, they're going to say, hey, we got all this money missing.
Yeah, it's missing.
Who
What
do
are
you
we going to
think
do?
did it? I don't even know.
I don't know. I bet you it's Big Ronnie. Let's go take a visit to Big Ronnie.
Big Ronnie is the guy. You know who I sound like?
You sound like John Travolta there.
That's exactly right. I thought it sounded like John Travolta.
Do that again.
It's Big Ronnie, you know. It's over here. It's Big Ronnie.
Oh,
hey,
that's pretty good.
Danny Zuko.
Can you dance like him too?
I could try. Not right. We're on radio.
Oh.
What are you doing here?
Anyway, so Big Ronnie's life was in shambles. It's crashing down upon him, and he's a jerk and an alcoholic.
He starts taking it out on his family
so
even
he
more,
starts
probably.
taking it out on his family.
Sure.
Correct. That's an easy supposition.
Yep.
So while this is going on with Big Ronnie, we're gonna move over to Butch now.
Yeah. Little Ronnie.
Little Ronnie. We're gonna call him Butch.
Strange character.
Sure. So by all accounts, even his own accounts, he was a drug addict, an alcoholic. He used to also
Sexual deviant.
He was. I didn't get the sexual deviant
Yep.
part.
Yep.
Oh. Well, maybe you can discuss
He
that.
was very promiscuous with the ladies.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, scary. So anyway, he was often tripping on LSD, shooting heroin, and by his own accounts, he used to drink a bottle of scotch a day.
Oh.
That's pretty bad. You can drink a bottle of scotch a day.
What kind of scotch you think? It was probably cheap scotch.
Probably a rot gut.
Old
scotch.
Crow?
Something that didn't have any notes. No notes in it.
No. Well, like
If
turpentine.
If Jake is listening, notes. Anyway, so he used to drink a bottle of scotch a day. He'd been in trouble with the law recently. He's had a few arrests for possession of drugs and so on and so forth. So he's basically a deadbeat, you know, like his old man. Unfortunately, he didn't have the money like his old man. So he worked at the car dealership, which was run by Big Ronnie.
Yep.
One day in the fall of 1974, as all this was going on with they're going to close the business and all this stuff's going on, Butch and another employee were taking a deposit to the bank from the dealership and were supposedly robbed at gunpoint, losing about $2,000 in cash. They had about $20,000 in deposit, but most of it was checks and stuff. They had about $2,000 in cash. So the police were called, and they were highly skeptical that the crime happened at all because when they got, and this will come up, I think, in this episode arc that Jay and I have a little bit of a background in investigations of criminal investigations and have been doing such for a very long time. And we can pretty much tell when someone's full of it pretty much right away, as most good cops can.
You get a sense for it.
Sure. You can tell, you deal with people enough, you can tell when somebody's full of it and someone's not. So when they detectives started talking to Butch and his compatriot,
Yes.
they started getting different stories, that the timelines didn't match up, and the police were pretty sure that they had staged the robbery to steal the money.
Sure. They robbed themselves.
That's right. And I'm sure that happens. It happens probably quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, now Butch is under investigation. Actually, this is kind of funny. So according to the police report, they pulled these two guys, Butch and his accomplice, aside individually. Because, when you have multiple parties to a case, you take them aside individually and to see if their stories match, right?
So not like you see on TV where they always put them together in
No.
a cell and they talking about everything.
I was watching My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Right? And these two guys are accused of murdering a clerk at the Sack of Suds.
That's right.
They put him in the same cell, and they let him commiserate constantly.
Yeah, well, because they got to get them in the same scene,
That's right,
talking.
because it's a movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in reality, they separate you to get your stories. And one of the guys said that the assailant was white. One of them said he was black. That's a pretty big difference.
That's a big discrepancy.
That's what we would call in the investigative field a clue.
Ooh.
That's a clue. So anyway, Butch is about to be arrested for staging the deposit robbery when this horrible event took place at the home. He's strung out on drugs, and by some accounts, and actually this is something that it's very hard to verify, but supposedly the DEA was actually conducting surveillance of Butch, suspecting that he was drug smuggling from his boat right on the river there. That's something that you don't really get into too much with and the reason is because it doesn't matter that he's drug running.
I think the one of the things too that the old man, an issue that he had was he used to kind of run his mouth a lot. He used to make up a lot of stories, like we said. He used to tell untruths, and I think that was one too that was a theory that he was running drugs through the little canal there.
That's right. So anyway, stress is at home. You got mafia, you got drugs, you got all sorts of stuff. It's basically what you have is a powder keg that's about to go off.
Correct.
And prior to this incident, there's been multiple altercations within the home. This is corroborated by neighbors who said that Big Ronnie used to throw Butch beatings constantly. And actually, one instance prior to the murders taking place, Butch pulled out a shotgun and pointed it at Big Ronnie's head and pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off.
Yeah.
Not sure if he meant for it not to go off. He was just trying to scare him or whatever the case may be. That just kind of goes to show you what was going on in the home.
Yeah, and supposedly there was an incestuous relationship between Butch DeFeo and the oldest daughter, Dawn, that was never really corroborated. There was some speculation. I guess some Dawn's friends came forward and talked a little bit about that. Just
to mention Dawn real briefly, because I don't think we get into her too much, which actually it does bear some explanation, because Dawn, the 18-year-old, was actually trying to get out of the house. She had a boyfriend that she was trying to move out with, who was not sure how serious he was about her, but she was very serious about him. Big Ronnie wouldn't let her move out, and he's a very controlling man. So Dawn actually had a motive to kill Big Ronnie because she's on drugs too. She's trying to get out of the house. She's receiving beatings from this guy.
Yep.
So you have another suspect that may come in, actually will come in,
right,
as we get further down the line. So again, powder keg about to get lit. It's like one of those old shows when they get all the dynamite in the mine, and somebody lights the little fuse.
Yeah, or you see like in the old cartoons, they would leave a trail of gunpowder. With the barrel, he'd be walking with the barrel, and it comes out the little hole.
Yeah,
and leaves the trail, and then he lights it.
It looks like pepper coming out of the little barrel. Anyway, so that's about to happen. So here's how the night in question went down. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
The evening of November 13th, 1974, Butch comes storming into a neighborhood bar that he's a regular at and says, "Help, my parents have been shot."
Yep. So
he leads a group from the bar, which, if that would have happened today, the first thing that anybody would do would probably pull out their cell phone and call 911.
Exactly. The normal-minded person.
Right, but no. So he goes down to a bar, and the reason for that is going to become clear when you see what happens.
Right.
So he goes down to the bar, says his parents have been shot, and need help. He leads a group back to his house, and then they get to the house, and he refuses to go in. What does that tell you?
Well, he knows what happened in there.
Because he knows what happened. So buddies of Butch's go in, and they discover 4 dead bodies almost right away, and they immediately call the police. The police come, and the police find an additional 2 bodies in the house. So police start to question Butch and hey, what happened? Like, how did you find this? What's going on? You have 6 dead people, including 4 children.
Right.
And you want to know what happened. The police obviously, and this is not an area where this type of crime happens. I watched an interview that took place with the medical examiner at the time, and he said if they got 1 body, that was a big deal. If they got 2, that was unbelievable.
Right.
And now they got 6 at the same time.
Right.
It just didn't happen in that area. So they start to question Butch. And Butch immediately tells them that he thinks that the mafia killed his parents.
Well, why not, right? I mean, he knows about the mafia. He knows his involvement there. If he's going to blame somebody, why not them?
Yep, Joey No-Nos, Johnny No.
Although I don't think that's within the modus operandi of the mafia folks, though, to kill children.
No, you're absolutely right. And the Omerta code of the mafia actually prohibits attacking families.
Right.
They would have killed Big Ronnie and just called it a day. But anyway, so Butch tells him he thinks the mafia did it because Big Ronnie owed him money, and that this is a weird cockamamie story that he had pulled up, that there was a hitman that he was friends with that actually lived in the home for a time. I don't recall the hitman's name, but it was probably something like interesting, like Vinny.
Jimmy Betts. I don't know.
Jay the Chin, something like that. Anyway, so he pins it on a hitman. So the police obviously are skeptical of this mafia story, but they don't know. So they put Butch into protective custody
right,
because they don't want him to get killed too. Also, a cunning police officer will put him in protective custody because he knows that he's probably the one that did it, and he doesn't want him getting away. So he's saying, "Oh, we're here for your protection."
Right.
And they pull him.
Make him feel comfortable. Make him
right.
feel like like he's not a suspect. Sure.
So they pull him in, and as the forensics teams go in and they start combing the house for evidence, and there's a lot of weird stuff that took place in the home, a lot of weird stuff related to the murders that we're going to get to, but we're going to stick with Butch for just a minute. So the police start questioning Butch off-site. Obviously, they're not doing it there, and they said that actually he was being very cooperative. He was telling them all sorts of stuff. He was probably really high on drugs at the time because he was high on drugs all the time. So he's being very cooperative with the police until the middle of the night when the police, his stories are so out of control and not matching up that the police start thinking that they have their guy there. So as you may or may not know, and you've seen a lot of TV shows, people probably have, that the police investigations and interrogations don't go a lot of times as you think they do in the movies. What we're going to get to in a minute after our break, because we are at the midpoint of our show.
30 minutes.
We're going to get into the police investigation, the police interrogation of Butch. We're going to talk about how they came to the conclusion that he may have done the murders, and we're going to take it from there.
Right. So as you know on the show, we like to promote music. Every once in a while we'll play some music. A couple weeks ago we played a musical number, a short clip from a band. They were called White Fuzzy Bloodbath.
Oh.
I don't know if you can remember them from
the
California.
Yeah.
So this week we have another musical interlude from an up and coming band.
Nice.
And they're called the Illegals. And they are U.S. citizens.
How applicable.
But we'll talk more about them here in a minute after we play a little bit of their music. So stand by. All right, so that was our featured musical guest of the week.
Yeah.
They're called the Illegals, and they hail from the great state of Indiana.
Nice.
The towns of Bluffton and Fort Wayne they call home. And they're a 5-piece band. And now when I say 5-piece, do you know what that means?
Yes, it means that they have 5 pieces of a puzzle, and they put it together on stage for everybody to see.
That's right. And they play music at the same time.
It means that there's 5 instruments, correct?
That's correct. And generally speaking, that'd be 2 guitars, a bass, a drum kit. Wait, how many is that? That's 4. Oh, I'm missing one.
Who's the last one?
Who's the fifth? Maybe there's 3 guitars.
Do you have a rhythm guitar, a lead guitar?
Yeah, maybe there's 2 guitars. I should know that.
You probably should know, man.
No, but they've had many.
Do they have a singer?
They've had many lineup changes over the years. But I believe, if I get this right, because I read their bio, and they have had a few people coming and going in the band. But we have Arthur and Donald Mock.
Okay.
They're related. They're brothers.
Nice.
And Arthur plays lead guitar, and Donald he's the vocalist.
Okay.
And they're very reminiscent. The sound, the overall sound is it's like the lead singer of Rancid meets Godsmack.
Okay.
I just when you put those two together, and they have a lot of wah pedal going on. Mm-hmm. I like that in the guitar.
It's an old school sounding.
Yeah, it's just rock and roll, straight up rock and roll. It's good. They play a lot of covers. They do originals. That was an original.
Very cool.
And so we got Ben Walker on drums. Justin Adams plays rhythm guitar, and old Jimmy Baker's thumping around on the bass there.
Wow.
So it's good. Good stuff from them.
Good stuff, guys. Really appreciate
And we like that they like the show.
Yeah, we absolutely love that.
Yep.
Well, wish them nothing but the best of success.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to jump back in and.
Well, before we get to that.
Oh, okay.
Before we get to that,
you cut me off.
I have an exciting bit of the show.
A bit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So here's what we're gonna do. On my way over here, as is my tradition, as is my way, I purchased an extra large hot coffee.
Is it black?
It's black.
Oh, that's too bitter.
And that's what I drink during the show. It's a tradition, and it's brought me nothing but success.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, I found out that Dunkin' Donuts is conducting a contest of sorts, and they are peel to win stickers on the extra large beverages. So I have here a sip, peel, and win ticket from Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, it's like the McDonald's Monopoly thing.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to peel it live here on the air.
Okay, let's hear it. Put it up to the microphone.
I'm going to put it up here. We're going to see if I won anything.
I want to hear what
do you think? Do you think I'm going to win?
You want a free hash browns.
Oh, I don't know.
An order of.
Those hash browns are quite delicious.
No, I don't like them.
Here we go. Ready?
Oh, that was a good sound. What do you got? What is it?
You are not an instant winner.
You know, that's pretty cheap.
That stinks. But it says I can enjoy $2. Oh, any size frozen coffee for $2.
That's such a
What is it normally?
$2.12? I don't know.
You know what? They should give me something.
That's stupid.
Anyway, Dunkin' Donuts, don't get me wrong. I really enjoy your coffee. I don't buy any food items from there. And the reason for that is because if you order anything more than one... If you order more than one item there, you get nothing but attitude from the Dunkin' Donuts person.
They get mad at you.
They get really angry, especially I have kids. Say I'm trying to get donuts or something for the kids, and I want to get like a bagel. No, you can't do more than one thing. They get really annoyed with you. It's just rough going.
You know what else is annoying? And I hate to. It just these things pop into my brain.
Okay.
Quickly, what if you've bought suits before, right? You have a suit.
Sure.
What do you think you should pay for a suit? Just like an average suit, not an expensive suit.
That's a good question. You know what? You get what you pay for when it comes to suits.
Yeah.
I don't have to wear suits too often, thankfully, but a couple $100, I would say, a couple $100.
So
maybe.
I have a wedding, a festive wedding coming up at the end of the month, and I needed to buy a new suit. You know, I've needed one, and I've been putting it off for a while. Mm-hmm. So I went to the local shopping establishment, and they had
only one,
and they had a suit store there, right?
Oh,
I won't mention it by name.
You know what? Before you go any further,
yep.
If this was me, and you and I are very similar in a lot of ways, you probably got really nervous before you went in there because you're going to have to get measured.
Yeah.
And then there's a man in your junk area with a little chalk thingy.
He's checking your inseam.
Yep.
He's running that tape measure up into your crotch.
Making sure you got crotch room.
Yep. You got to make sure you smell good.
Continue.
Anyway, so I just walked in and I have a budget in mind.
Sure.
So I said, what's the average suit
Plus, you're very cheap.
cost here? I want to know this. So I asked the guy, I'm not looking for anything super expensive.
$5,000.
He goes, $699.
That sounds like a lot.
That's too much.
That sounds like a lot. Yeah.
So I got mad and I turned and walked out.
But like I said, it was it a designer suit? I mean,
I don't know.
Designer suits. You're gonna pay that. You're gonna pay a lot of money.
It's all Chinese crap anyway.
No.
So, yeah.
You can go to some custom. You can get a custom suit for that.
You should be able to.
Yeah, I don't.
But anyway, I ended up at a different store and I found one on sale for $160.
If you go to the thrift store, you probably get one for like $20.
The guy came over and measured me, and it was weird. He had one normal hand, and he had one hand that was
it withered?
It was bulbous, like the fingers, and it was all inflamed, and it was red and purple.
Was it the left hand or the right hand?
His left hand.
Okay, so you didn't have to shake it?
I didn't have to shake it, but he was manipulating it around, and he had the tape measure up near my neck.
I'm reminded by
mutant hand.
I'm reminded by a very very funny bit that George Carlin did. Remember the great George Carlin, who did he said that he had to shake someone's hand once and it was deformed, and he goes, I had to pretend that it was completely normal. He goes, what else are you gonna do? I start screaming.
Yeah, that's what I felt like doing.
So he goes, you just feel like, hey, great hand, man.
And he had a little thumbnail. It was and it was hanging on just by a thread.
Well, you know what? You did a good deed. You brought him some business.
I did.
And you bought a suit.
He wasn't happy though. He was kind of mean.
Let's flash back to November 1974.
Yep.
So what we have the 6 dead members of the DeFeo family, and we have Butch DeFeo, the eldest son, in police custody being questioned. So as we said a little bit before, police questionings kind of go a certain way, and a lot of times police officers and detectives and whatnot are actually very, very nice, and you wouldn't think that they would be. But the reason for their niceties is that, number one, they don't know if you did anything wrong, first of all. Mm-hmm. And secondly, they're trying to lock you into a story.
Yeah.
Because once you lock somebody into a story, it's very difficult to... Once you start deviating from it, they know you're lying,
right,
and so on and so forth. So that's what was happening with Butch. They locked him into a story, and his story was fantastical, involving the mafia, and he thinks that this guy, this mafia hitman that had been staying in the home, came in and killed everybody, and so on and so forth. So right around the middle of the night, they start getting a little bit more suspicious of Butch. At the same time, investigators in the home, searching for evidence, find an empty box for a .35 caliber Marlin rifle in Butch's room. So they didn't find the rifle; they found the box that it comes in.
Yep.
So, and the medical examiner on scene had already determined that the cause of death for all the victims was the same weapon. It was a .35 caliber, which is an odd caliber today, but it apparently was used for hunting or something back in the 70s. I'm not sure how well. Think of a .35 caliber, so it'd be a little bit smaller than a 40, but a
yeah. So
a
your
formidable
standard
round anyway.
hunting cartridges are 30 caliber and,
right.
and in that general caliber range.
Right. So anyway, so according to the police, Butch is being very cooperative at this time. According to Butch, they're beating the piss out of him at this time.
Yeah.
So again, 1970s is not today. Rumors were that the police department, especially this is the county police down in that county,
Yep.
were notorious for beating criminal suspects into confessions.
Oh, that's a good technique.
Supposedly, and this is something that I learned very recently, supposedly at the time, just to give you a little bit of perspective, the average confession rate for a Brooklyn detective at that time was about 30%. About 30% of people he interviewed confessed. In this county, 90+% of people confessed.
And not all coerced.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So supposedly they were hitting, Butch said that they were hitting him with phone books, they were hitting him with lead saps, punching him in the stomach, kicking him around.
Well, it is the 70s.
It is the 70s, and he was a dirtbag.
Yeah.
So he probably deserved it. Anyway, so they were beating the piss out of him, and he comes to, and supposedly he starts copping that, coupled with the evidence that they found a .35 caliber rifle box. He starts copping to the murders. However, very important however here. So Butch eventually does confess.
Sorry, if you hear some panting, hot panting, the dog has its face near the microphone. That's what you hear. It's not me. I'm not getting all hot and bothered.
He does have a very nice dog. It's a German Shepherd, and he's quite handsome. He's a handsome dog. Anyway, so Butch cops to the murders of his parents,
Yes.
and that's it. And he says that at first he says he doesn't know who killed the other people.
Right.
So he admits, yes, he killed his father and his mother, and it was in self-defense because he thought his father was going to come and kill him. So he basically said that he believed, because in his drug-fueled, drug-addled state, that he did the killings because Big Ronnie was being abusive and he was on drugs. And actually, Butch changes his story about literally 12 times during this course of this interrogation. So, and he starts to include all sorts of outlandish things, which we're actually going to discuss a little bit further next episode, because what you have is a confluence of events. You have a criminal trial, and you have paranormal stuff going on. We're going to talk about that in next episode. So the final story that he starts sticking to, and actually if you see Butch DeFeo, who's actually still alive, he's still in jail.
Yep.
If you see an interview with him, he'll tell you, I'm a liar, I'm a manipulator, I just say things.
He's very Charles Manson-esque.
He is.
Actually.
He looks like Charles Manson, and he's a bit of a wackadoo.
Yep.
But anyway, so the story that he settles on is that he killed the parents, but he had an accomplice with him in the house, and by the name of Bobby, and his sister Dawn is actually the one that killed the other kids.
Yep.
And that he killed Dawn when he found out that she had killed the other kids, and they fought over the rifle, and he killed her.
It set him into a fit of rage when he found out he killed the siblings.
Right. So according to Butch, what happened was his sister Dawn and he entered into agreement to kill Big Ronnie and the mother, so that they could escape. And the ultimate plan was they were going to take the three other kids with them to escape someplace else and live happily ever after on the life insurance money, which is a flawed plan in and of itself. But that's supposedly the plan that these two concocted. And that, like I said, after Butch had killed the Big Ronnie and his mother, Dawn took the rifle, killed the other kids, and then he killed her when he found out what she did. So that's the Butch story. So, and the other kid that was in the house by the name of Bobby, there's no evidence that he was actually there, and
they could never find a guy named Bobby.
Well, there was a friend, but it doesn't
right.
turn out that there was any evidence that there was anybody else in the house except Butch.
Yep.
So anyway, So there's a lot of troubling questions, obviously. You have 6 dead people, and you have one crazy, weirdo, whacked-out drug guy he's the only one who knows what happened.
Yeah.
Because forensically, they prove, yes, Butch was in the house. Yes, Butch used this rifle.
So let's quickly just talk about the crime scene.
Yes.
So pretty much everybody that was murdered, that was shot to death in the home, they were pretty much all found in the bed or in the bedroom in states of what appeared to be like they were sleeping.
Like they were sleeping face down, yeah.
Right. So they basically were ambushed style.
Yes.
So they were sleeping. They were shot while they were sleeping, and it didn't appear that anybody tried to flee the area, flee the scene at all.
No, it wasn't like a disheveled scene.
No.
So
which is odd in itself.
No. So this brings up one of the crucial parts of this case that is, and that's what leads people to delve into the unknown, into the supernatural, if you will. And that's because anyone who's ever been around a gunshot knows that it's very loud. Whether it's a pistol, whether it's a rifle, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Gunshots are extremely loud. In a confined space, such as in a house, it would be heard from a great distance away. So your point is, and I'm extrapolating from what you just said.
Yes.
Why would they all be in their beds sleeping if one person had to go from room to room and kill everybody in the house?
Right.
Because they were in multiple rooms on multiple levels of the home.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that troubling aspect of it. Now, if it was the kids, 8 years old, 12 years old, you can think maybe they were just terrified and they just stayed in their beds. They heard noises, but they didn't know what it was. But you have older kids, you have the parents. How come nobody got up?
Right.
How come nobody ran out into and tried to escape the home? Problem number 1. So if Butch did the killings alone, why didn't anybody get out of bed? Like I just said, we don't know. The sound generated by a rifle shot in and this is a well-populated neighborhood.
Right.
One shot would have made a huge racket.
I mean, you could think you could get away with one round, one shot, and then somebody waking up and saying, "Oh, like a neighbor, so to speak." And,
right.
Oh, what was that? But to hear multiple,
right,
at least 6 or 7 shots were fired.
Also troubling. Neighbors reported hearing the dog barking between 3 and 4 a.m., but that's it.
Yeah.
So you can hear the dog bark, but not somebody shooting 6 rounds, and there's no evidence that they used the silencer or anything to muffle the shots.
Right.
So you have to go, well, how the heck did that happen? Here's a forensic question for you. So there was a little bit of blood splatter that was found in the doorway of the parents' bedroom, while both bodies were found in the bed. So how did the blood splatter get on the outside of the door frame if the bodies were in the room? That's a forensic question that was never answered.
They couldn't figure that one out.
Because
it wasn't blood transfer. Like somebody had it on them and walked past the door.
It was a blood splatter from a gunshot, and it was outside. So I'm gonna give you a theory about that in just a moment. So, and not to trouble the waters or muddy the waters any further, but you have the police evidently lying about some things in this investigation, such as the position of the bodies. There was some personal accounts by some of the investigators that were on scene that the bodies were not initially found in the position that they were ultimately recorded as being found.
Okay.
And you have to think, why would the police go to any effort to cover up or to manipulate evidence? And then, knowing what you know, why would police do that?
Maybe, in especially being that the 70s and corruption and things of that sort, they thought they had their killer.
Right.
They were trying to manipulate the scene to make it easier, for them to prove that he was the killer.
Exactly, because once you start entertaining the belief that there's another person involved,
right,
it's a conspiracy, and now you have to find that other person. When actuality, you have the guy here.
Right.
Let's just make it.
And then it adds reasonable doubt to whatever case you're putting forth on the initial suspect.
Right. So the bloods, and this is a theory that was actually put forth by some investigators long after there was a documentary made. There's been millions of documentaries made about this, but one of them in particular put forth a theory that the blood splatter on the outside of the door to the parents' bedroom was when Butch shot the
mother.
No.
Dawn.
Butch shot Big Ronnie first.
Big Ronnie. Yes.
He got out of bed. He shot him in the back.
Yep.
He got out of bed and rushed him. He shot him again, and then he retreated to the bed where he died. It doesn't make any sense because
there would have been
blood everywhere if that would have happened. The other theory is that while Butch was coming up the stairs, Big Ronnie heard him coming, confronted him on the staircase, and turned around when he realized that he had a gun.
Right.
Then he shot him in the back. He fell forward onto the bed. And so the shot actually happened in the doorway. which would explain the blood splatter there.
Right.
And then he died on the bed.
I think you can still go online and see crime scene photos.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crime scene. Well, you can see crime scene photos, but as I said, the scene had been disturbed.
Right.
They had they had covered up some of the bodies with sheets. Somebody does it, and it's actually still up in the air. No one knows who covered them up, whether it was investigators, whether it was a medical examiner, whether it was Butch himself. A lot of times when killers kill members of their own family, maybe they feel immediately remorse, and he tried to cover up what he did by covering the sheet with the sheet, so that you have the potential for that happening. So there's a lot of forensic issues with the crime scene, and as a result of that, it leads to a lot of unanswered questions as to why all of this would take place, and actually sets up the trial, which was a spectacle in and of itself.
So ultimately, he was convicted of the crimes.
Yes. So to fast forward slightly, so he was convicted of the crimes. He actually admitted in court that he killed all of them. Mm-hmm. This was several months later. He admitted in court he killed all of them, and he did it in self-defense. Right. Which doesn't make any sense.
From years of abuse and all that stuff.
However, also brought up at court, and this actually is a great segue into our next episode.
Yep.
He, only in court, much later, brings up that demonic voices told him to kill.
Yeah, so he was hearing voices. They were telling him to kill his parents. So that's
right.
When we talk about the Amityville horror case, the haunting case, which we're gonna delve into next week, and that's really the more famous of the two stories that people most know about, with the movies and the books and things of that sort.
But this is the transition. So you have the crime, and then Butch DeFeo in court says that he was sitting in his room that night, and a cloaked figure, a large dark cloaked figure, came in, handed him the rifle, and said, "Go kill your family." This was the genesis of the Amityville horror haunting.
Exactly.
Which we're going to get into, like I said, next episode. And this is all going on at the same time as the trial. The Lutz family moves into the house. We're going to discuss this at length next episode.
Yep.
And then this is where, as you said, this is where the widely known story of the Amityville horror started.
Correct. Yeah. So exactly. So the story, and most people think that the haunting started when the Lutz family moved in, but like Mike said, there's actually speculation, and from Butch himself, and take that with a grain of salt, but that the paranormal and the supernatural things were occurring prior to that.
Right.
So actually, next week, we are going to delve into the actual Amityville horror case, the haunting case, the one that people are most familiar with. There's been several movies. Obviously, it initiated in a book form.
Yep.
Was the first medium that it came to be more known by, was through the book. But we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about the family that moved in there, what happened to them, some of the claims that they made.
We're going to get into some of the sacred cows, if you will, of the paranormal community, how they got their start here at the Amityville house, and how today we're still seeing stories about these people. And all of it may be based on a lie. And
we're gonna definitely debunk some of that stuff. And then the third episode of this arc, as we like to call it, we're gonna play a past interview from a gentleman by the name of Rick Moran. Yes. And Rick Moran we had on our show many, many moons ago when we were doing the AM version of this program, when we were young and green.
Yes, and Rick Moran actually has a unique perspective. Unfortunately, he passed away in the intervening years.
Right.
But he was one of the first journalists on scene of the murders, of the Butch DeFeo murders, and had a unique perspective on what was taking place on that evening and what took place after. So he's just a primary source of information.
And you'll hear in the interview, the way he describes it is he was pretty much on the sidewalk when they were taking the bodies out of the house.
Which is crazy to think about.
You couldn't have been there any sooner.
Right.
And he actually, and we'll talk more about him later on, but he founded his own paranormal group. So he was part of investigating the murders and the paranormal claims that took place afterwards as well, as far as the Lutz family is concerned.
So anyway, this has been episode 1 of that 3-episode arc. Hopefully we're able to give a little bit of insight, because if you don't believe in ghosts, if you don't believe in demonic possession, if you don't believe in the paranormal at all, this is still a horrific story. And this is a human tragedy.
Yep.
6 members of a family were killed by this guy, and you have to think that there's a reason for it. And right now we still don't know.
We don't know for sure. and he's, like we said, Butch is a mentally disturbed individual, and whether or not that was attributed to growing up in a household, a very abusive household,
right,
or just genetically speaking, he was just predisposed to violence. We don't know the answer to that.
Well, anyway, if you have thoughts on this or any other topics that we've discussed, I hope you will go on our website, which is TheEoNProject.com. It's TheEonProject.com. On there, you can drop us a line via our email, which is TheEoNProject@yahoo.com. You can also get a hold of us on Twitter. I'm on there all the time.
Yeah, you're very active. You're clicking away on the Twitter.
Interacting with folk. Actually meeting some interesting people via Twitter.
Every once in a while, I'll see a name on the Twitter feed pop up. It says, Billy Bones followed you back on Twitter.
Baby.
I'm like, what the heck? Who's Billy Bones? What does he do?
If you want a shout out on the show, contact us on Twitter. We'll talk about you.
And if you just want to come on and talk with us, give us a send us an email or any kind of message actually, and we'll get back to you.
Any kind of message, smoke message.
Send a raven.
Send a raven.
Yep.
We never talked about the game. We're out of time, but we haven't talked about Game of Thrones finale. We never did.
No, it was a good. It was good. I went back and started watching from season 1. I'm rewatching the whole thing because there's a lot of stuff that you remember when you first watch it. There's a lot of like different plot lines, and you kind of get lost in the story. But
a lot of characters.
Now that you're more familiar with the story, it's you find it more interesting. I think.
And we're not going to talk about it in depth. We don't have any time. But I think it was very interesting how everybody came together. Because what you had was 6 seasons of everybody
doing their own thing,
and then here at the end, everybody's coming together. Gives you a little bit of a closure.
You know what I find most fascinating?
What's that?
George R. Martin, the guy that wrote all the books.
Yes.
It's amazing to me what can come out of one human being's brain.
You mean a smart person, not like us?
Oh my God! And I've been watching interviews with him. It's amazing to me all the different characters and the storylines and how he ties everything together, and he comes up with these different cultures and all these backstories and intertwined. It's really pretty incredible. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like I have cool ideas.
Yeah, but he's fleshing them all out.
How do you formulate that into a cohesive, coherent story? It's just it's mind-boggling and it's fascinating to me.
Before we end, I want to send a special shout out to the person who sent us a review of some kind.
On
Facebook.
Yep.
And they said they really loved our pie crusy.
I saw that. Is it pie crusy or crusy? It's Crusy.
I prefer to say crusy, but I don't know what that means. So if you're the one that sent us the message that you love our pie crusy, I want to know why. Why did you like what did you like about our pie crusy, and what is a pie crusy?
I feel like whoever said it would say it in a voice like this. Oh, I like that pie crusy.
Pie crusy?
I love your pie crusy.
That's interesting. It's an old lady from Alabama.
I feel like that's what it would be, it would sound like if the person said it.
Well, I don't know. But
you can go on the Facebook and you can see the message.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody else can decipher it.
Somebody can decipher. We're taking listener suggestions as to what the pie crusy might be.
Crusy or crusy. We'll have to figure out how to say it properly.
Yeah.
All right. So that was a good show.
Yeah.
Some information there. And like we said, next week we're going to get into the paranormal aspect of it. And we'll come back with another new and exciting episode. You got anything else to say?
Nope.
All right, so just remember, the truth exists. Believe it.